show you that you can become a blueprint millionaire. I'm serious about that. You can become a blueprint millionaire. And I don't know about you. Maybe you can put this response or some feedback in the comments. But when I look back over my life, okay, I just turned 45 years old yesterday. When I look back over my 45-year life, I can probably like be clear and go back as far as when I was about 11 or 12, when I realized that there was I mean like a big, extraordinary difference between the way I was living and the way other people outside of my community was living. Now it's a difference if you go to the neighbor's house and, okay, we were very poor, we were impoverished, right? My grandmother, my mama's mama, she raised me and my siblings and my niece when she was born, before she died. And we knew we was poor, okay? We knew we didn't get all the gifts. We knew there were other kids in the community that got bicycles and motorcycles and toys and games and all the gadgets that we knew we wanted. And you're talking about, I'm a 70s baby, so you're talking about like maybe the early 80s, growing up 5, 6, 7 years old. I knew that we were in poverty, okay? I knew that we were poor. I knew we didn't have a lot, but my grandma instilled into us like morals and ethics, and so we never really had this chip on our shoulder or this resentment like, oh man, everybody else doing better than us and why we gotta live like this. I had moments that I felt that way, but it wasn't until I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. So I was born in 1976. You're talking about what? That would be 87, 88, 1987, 1988. That was around the time that I really started realizing that, man, it's a big difference between the way we live in, even though we saw a difference between the way we was living and other people in the community, because you had people in the community who were doing pretty well. But when I looked at some of the people and how they were living outside of the community, I mean, because we used to go to some of these other neighborhoods, whether it was to cut grass or whether it was to trim trees or whether it was to solicit or do whatever it was, or just to look, we knew that there was a big difference. There was a financial disparity. There was a fundamental difference between how I was living in my neighborhood and how other people and other kids were living in their neighborhood. And really you see it when you in school, but you really don't think about it when you go to school. Some people take the bus, some people getting dropped off, but you're really not making no big deal about it. At least I wasn't really thinking about it. But when I got like 11 or 12, I started thinking about it. Now I'm saying this to you because some of the things that I want to talk about today on how to become a millionaire are literally central to your upbringing. They're central to your mindset. They're central to your belief system. And they're all going to reflect and result in certain behaviors, certain practices, certain techniques and tactics that you use on a day-to-day basis. And so if your mindset, if how you were raised, if your environmental structure, if it kind of shaped you to think a certain way, to believe a certain way, and to operate a certain way, it has a lot to do with why you may be in the financial condition or position that you're in. So I'm not trying to get like real heavy and deep into this discussion, but I'm not going to just sit on this show and just say, okay, here are like the 4 steps to becoming a millionaire. It don't work like that. And I have had to figure this out, and I'm 45 years old. Of course, I thought this would have happened to me probably 30 years ago, maybe 32, 33 years ago. But it didn't happen to me 32, 33 years ago. All right. And so when I look back to the time when I was about 12 or 13, that's when I realized that, man, I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. And here's the thing. It was around the same time or soon after I started thinking like that. That was around the same time that I got introduced to really heavy drugs. I became a drug addict at a young age. I mean, I was literally a full-blown drug addict by the time I was 13, 14. I'm talking about hard, heavy drugs. We're talking about snorting cocaine and selling crack and weed, and I was already addicted to nicotine and drinking. All this by the time I was 13, 14 years old. But the past couple years, since I have been in the process of creating a millionaire lifestyle for me and for my family, these last couple of years have been able to shed light on me, or God has allowed me to be enlightened on what really happened to me during that time when I transitioned from 11 or 12-year-old into like this, from this good kid into this like crazy drug addicted criminal. Well, a lot of that stemmed from me wanting to be a millionaire, me wanting to be rich, me wanting to have a different life, and feeling like the way I was living, I wasn't blaming my grandma or my mom or my daddy at the time. It was just like, wow, this is the way life is. This is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And some of that triggered me going into drugs, triggered me going into alcohol abuse, triggered me going into the streets and becoming a street hustler and a thug, because to some extent, and I've realized that in my adult life, that I gave up on becoming a millionaire. I never gave up on wanting to be a millionaire. I just gave up on realizing I could be a millionaire and put myself in a position to become a millionaire. So I'm very interested, and this is like a real heart-to-heart, sincere conversation that I want to have with you. I am interested in knowing if you have had similar experiences. Was there a certain point in your life as a child that you saw things on TV, you noticed a disparity and a difference in certain people that come from certain neighborhoods, or certain young people you saw in school or wherever? Did you have any experience like that? I know that experience really affected me. And so if you just look at the way my life is, and I like using my life as an example, because I want to show you, and when I make statements and use phrases and cliches like you see me use and make on social media, I want you to understand the human side behind it. So when you see like little statements that say, oh, Ramon Preston went from hood figure to seven figures, is that just a marketing scheme? Is that just a tactic to get people's attention? Is that just another form of social media advertising to come off as this internet guru who's selling some internet product that they really don't have an understanding or an attachment to? Or is it actually a human side, a real side of a person who went through some things and made the committed decision at certain points in his life to figure those things out that he went through, so that number one, he could break the cycle and create history, but also provide an opportunity for people like you to break that cycle and create history. And it's the truth. My life has always been an open book. I'm never going to come on social media. I'm never going to present to my family or to people in my circle in my life something that I know is a false narrative. Because the truth is, if I'm lying, if I'm capping, if I'm faking, if I'm fronting, if I'm putting on for social media, at some point the truth is gonna come out. But I can stand right here, 10 toes down, flat-footed, and look you right in the eye, and you look me right in the eye, and say, everything that I'm sharing with you, I am living in my own personal life. I would not even be discussing a millionaire blueprint if I haven't put myself in that position to be a blueprint millionaire. If me and my family did not experience what we experienced in our lives to get to where we are, I wouldn't be telling all these sob stories and these war stories, but it is what it is. And whoever don't like it, that's their problem. But for those of you that really have had dreams and desires to become millionaires, okay, and you've just tried to figure this thing out, and maybe like me, you reached a point in your life. I was 12 or 13 when I reached that point, because if you look at my life and you see where I got to the height of really believing that I was going to be a millionaire. My mama was telling me stories about my family, that the white side of my family in Pennsylvania, we were all believing at that time that she had rich family members that gave her an inheritance. And I can remember these stories so vividly. And I really thought that, man, we were gonna be rich. We were gonna own houses and we were gonna drive go-karts around and four-wheelers. And man, I just had these dreams, not even knowing that even though there may have been some truth to my mama's stories, and even though my mama may have used it to exaggerate, to get over on a whole lot of people to fund her crack addiction, I've realized, especially as an adult, that God was actually using some of that to fuel this dream and this desire to become a millionaire, to be rich, to get wealthy, and to put my family and my legacy on. And guess what? Initially, when I was 12 or 13 years old, it turned around and went a different direction. In other words, I went straight to the streets. But I didn't know at the time I went to the streets and I went to drugs because I was giving up. I gave up on it because it never happened. In other words, once all the stuff my mama was saying that was going to happen to us, and we was going to get this money from our white family members, it was going to be an inheritance. Once all that fell through, I think a part of me gave up, and I may have just felt like subconsciously or consciously, I'm never going to be a millionaire, I'm never going to get rich, we ain't going to never get out of poverty, we're going to be broke, we're going to struggle for the rest of our life, my grandma going to struggle. And it was just horrible. And so I went right to the streets. I went right to drugs. I went right to alcohol. And I lived that life until I was about 21 years old. So 24 years ago was when I got saved in the trap house. When I got converted, I became a Christian. God called me into ministry, and that's when I really started realizing that there was a greater purpose for my life. Of course, I got clean, I got off drugs, I've been on a different path for the last 24 years, but it still wasn't until about 18 years ago when my wife and I got married. We met 19 years ago, we got married 18 years ago. Once me and my wife got married, now I had someone who could help me make sense of what I went through the first 20-something odd years of my life up until that point that me and my wife met and were preparing to get married. And when my wife and I decided to come together as a team, and she understood that I had certain dreams, she understood that I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to fulfill my dreams. She bought into those dreams. She believed in those dreams when other people just could not see it. Because at the time my wife and I got married, I didn't have a pot to pee in or when to throw it out. I had nothing. I don't even think I had a bank account. I think I was in check systems. I had already had 2 car repossessions. I was homeless. I mean, I was going through a lot, but guess what? She saw something in me that a whole lot of people around me couldn't see. So shout out to my wife. And guess what? Shout out to those of you that have recognized a lot of things that you want to accomplish. You're not going to be able to accomplish because you're unwilling to connect to the right person and to put yourself around the right people. Boom, that's a mic drop right there. But I would love to know if any of you that are watching me today, if you have had similar experiences, if you have experienced like major traumatic disappointments in your life, I want you to really lean into that thing and see like where in your life coming up to a certain point that you checked out. I know for me it was around 12 or 13 years old, but it was around the same time that I was buying into this dream that my mama was going to get some inheritance money. We was going to end up rich and blah, 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 blah. That never happened. I went into the streets, stayed into the streets, stayed a criminal, stayed a drug addict until I was 21. And then once I got saved and got my life together and got cleaned up, it was still a 6-year window between 1997 and 2003 before I met my wife, and then I started my millionaire journey. I knew it 18 years ago when I left South Florida and moved to Atlanta. I knew 18 years ago I was going to be not just a millionaire, I knew I was going to be a billionaire. I ain't at a billionaire yet. I'm not even at a hectomillionaire yet, but I can definitely say I am a validation and verification of what a blueprint millionaire is, period, point blank. And I got receipts to prove it. But this is not an opportunity for me to try to boast and showboat and brag and flaunt. It's really for me to show you that if you have the dream, if you have the desire, especially if you have the drive and the determination and a lot of those intangibles internally to really be a millionaire, to be financially free, to put you and your family and others on, guess what? All it takes is some other practical components to be integrated into those internal, intangible things that will really set you on the course and on the path. And that's why I put this Millionaire Blueprint together. That's why I provide mentoring and coaching and consulting for so many people. That's why I'm such a proponent of training and education, because I know once you get this stuff, with a lot of the intangible stuff you have. See, what I went through in my teenage years leading up to me getting saved in a trap house, it was God's preparation of me to use those things that were meant for my bad to turn them around for my good. But it was that living, it was those conditions, those experiences, being a drug addict, being a street hustler and a thug, and being a criminal and going in and out of jail and being homeless and just living like a vagabond. All of those years that I lived like that, it built a muscle inside of me. It of course at the time created a monster, but I was able to take that monster, polish that monster up, and use it for the glory of God and for the benefit of my financial freedom, my legacy, and my family's future. And I know you want the same, okay? And so today, I want to share some things with you that you have to integrate. If you got the determination, the drive, the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams, the desires, you got the commitment, you like Prophet Ramon, I'm ready, dog. I'm ready to do the doggone thing. All I need is the tool. It's kind of like you having a picture, and it's $1 million picture, but because you don't have a wall to put the picture on, and maybe you have a wall, but you don't have a nail or a screw and a hammer or a lever, most likely you sit the picture on the wall, on the floor, and you lean it up against the wall. Have you ever gone to somebody's house and you saw like a picture just leaning on the wall, and you like, oh, when you gonna put the picture up? Man, I ain't got nothing to put it up. It's the same thing. Being a millionaire, being financially free, putting you and your family on financially so that you can do the things you want to do is like having a picture, but you're not going to be able to live those dreams out, fulfill those things that you promised your grandma. You may have promised your mama before she passed, or your daddy, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to get wealthy, I'm going to take care of the family, and you feel disappointed and broken as if it's never going to happen. I'm here to tell you, because I don't know how many thousands and thousands of times I talk myself out of it and try to convince myself thousands and thousands of times, man, I ain't gonna never get rich. Maybe it ain't for me. Maybe God got a certain type of person that he's gonna do that for. And maybe the people who I see that's doing well, maybe it's just for them. There were many thousands upon thousands of days and moments and minutes and times in my life that I thought that, I checked out, until I started getting different information. And then when I started getting different information, I started putting the pieces together. I start putting two and two together and realizing, man, a lot of this stuff that's keeping me broke is because of how I was raised. Not my mama's fault, not my daddy's fault, not my grandma's fault, not my community fault, because we've had some amazing, good, godly people that helped raise us and that did everything they could to protect us. We could have been worse off. But my point is, just the environment of information and the environment of certain things that were lacking when it came to finances, when it came to business, when it came to investing, when it came to ownership, when it came to creating legacies and having a foundation for generational wealth. A lot of those things were either missed because they were never given, or if they were given, they may have been overlooked or dismissed just because of how we were brought up. In other words, somebody can bring a pot of gold in front of you where we come from, and we look at them like, man, ain't nobody gonna believe that. It's just not believable. And so we have resentment for the few people who might be doing good, because now we celebrate the person who's struggling. You know, I come from a neighborhood and I'm a part of a culture like a lot of you are a part of and come from. And we come from those environments and that culture and those neighborhoods where somebody can go to prison or go to the county jail and do 6 months in jail. And they'll get out, they skin color is different because they ain't been outside. They wearing clean whites. They done got swole because they just got out of the county jail, got out of prison. And we will celebrate that person more then we will celebrate that same person if they cleaned themselves up, got out the streets, got off drugs, started going to church, and became a millionaire. We would start resenting that person. We will start hating on that person. We'll start looking at that person saying, child, look at him. He swear he all that. Look at him. Oh, he done forgot his own people. Oh, you'll never forget where you come from, dog. That's how we treat people when they do successful things, because it's what's been embedded in us. So one of the pillars to really creating a millionaire life and becoming a real-time millionaire is you've got to kind of work your way through that thing to make sure that you check all those boxes. It's kind of like not just going through deliverance, but it's kind of like self-therapy. You got to accept that, you know what? A lot of what I was raised to believe, a lot of my upbringing, a lot of my environmental views and perspectives and philosophies, they have affected my life right now. As a matter of fact, a lot of that has affected our relationship with money. Because if you look at where you are financially right now, that says a lot about your relationship with money. When I first heard that, I was like, hold up, wait a minute. It was a different statement when I heard it the first time, but the statement was basically saying, where you are right now, Ramon, financially, is a reflection of your relationship with money. And I was like, God dog, I'm broke. I'm in debt. I ain't got a whole lot. So that means I got a horrible relationship with money. But even today, I still read that statement. That statement on a more expanded version is still a part of some of my daily affirmations that I make and I read. And every time I get to that one paragraph and it says, where I am right now is a reflection of my relationship with my money, I be thinking, dog, man, I'm still trying to figure this thing out. And so I really want to help you, and I really want you to kind of look past maybe how you feel about somebody like me and understand, wow, I got dreams and desires. And this guy named Ramon Preston has information, and he has the success. He has the track record to prove that it can actually be done. Think about it. I'm 45 years old. I was raised in poverty. My parents were crackheads. My grandma was a poor German Jewish woman trying to raise some biracial kids who had nothing. She dies when I was 16. I was already a full-fledged drug addict, drug dealer, street hustler, thug. Started going in and out of jail, homeless. I lived like that until I was 21, which was 1997. We're talking about 24 years ago. So 24 years ago, I came out of the streets. Like 24 years ago, literally, at 21 years old, I was just starting to understand life. I had nothing. I was a loser 24 years ago, okay? I didn't even have a license. I had no bank account. I had none of that, because when you in the streets, especially when you're in the streets like I was in the streets, you ain't thinking about none of that stuff. You know what I mean? And so once I started my path in a new life 24 years ago, it still took me 6 years to figure it out. It took me 6 years to figure it out. It took me going through divorce. It took me having 2 children. It took me being homeless a couple more times in those 6 years. It took me jumping from pillar to post, from job to job. Cause I mean, I'm 21 years old coming straight out of the streets, and now I'm going to church, and now church people telling me you need to work, you need to take care of your family. And I'm like, okay, how you do all this? And they trying to give me like $7 an hour. And I'm like, man, I'm ready to go rob somebody or hustle or whatever. Go get me a 50 pack or something. And I struggled for 6 years. And then 6 years into my new life, from 21 to 26 pretty much, that's when I met my wife. We got married, and for the last 18 years, I have been locked in to become a millionaire. And I'm telling you, it ain't gonna be overnight. If you think it's gonna be overnight, if you think you're gonna be the next Mark Zuckerberg, I'm telling you, what if you ain't? What if you're not the next Elon Musk? What if that idea you got don't work? What if this whole digital, currency thing that's going on doesn't net you, like currency that you can actually use right now to pay your mortgage, or to take care of your family, or to bury your family? What if that doesn't, kick off for another 5 or 10 or 15 years? What exactly are you going to do? And so these are the questions that I've had to ask myself, and which, by the way, be a millionaire? Well, I'm making it real easy for you, because I'm giving you my personal playbook that I've used to go from hood figure to 7 figures. It's called the Millionaire Blueprint. This is an online business and financial wealth building system that I know works, because I've used it to become one myself. Now, in this wealth building system, I'm teaching you about starting and structuring holding companies, creating divisions, subsidiaries, how to reallocate pre-tax dollars into other operating entities. I'm teaching you creative tax strategies, how to minimize your taxes, maximize your deductions. I'm teaching you real estate investing, on how to take earned income and active income and convert it into passive income. I'm also teaching you sales, how to create a sales process, a sales cycle, how to create a script. I'm teaching you marketing, goal setting, scheduling, pricing of products, product development. This is a very, very, very detailed business and financial wealth building system. Click the link. This is an offer